I'd like to dedicate this story to the memory of a dear friend, Linda Couric. The only reason I can come up with that she was taken from us is that there's some place in this universe that needs her sweetness and beauty even more than we do.
Hello. Nice to see you alive, as we used to say in the trenches. And speaking of being alive, did you ever wonder what was on the other side? Well, I come to tell you, because I've been. It happened because of the war. Everyone called it the Great War. Wasn't so great for me. At least not at first. And then it becomes something so incredibly beautiful. I wouldn't have imagined it in a million years. I didn't want to go to war. My wife had just had a baby, a beautiful little girl, Carolyn, but I took the corner Cora. It was some Italian name that just come into my head. Means dear. Oh, she was so dear to me, she was. The greatest joy in the entire life was to gather her up in my arms and to carry her out to the meadow behind our house and show her the wildflowers. Cora, love, I used to say to her, even with a war, look how beautiful the world is. And so you can imagine I didn't want to leave her. But there was another reason too. It was the baths. You see, when the Romans ruled this part of England, they built baths. And when I was a little boy, I used to go out to the baths and look in the water and imagine that I was a Roman soldier with me breastplate, helmet, and me sword. And I could see my reflection in the water. And then one day, when I was a little bit older, I looked down in the water and it was blood! And there were the bodies of Roman soldiers with their breastplates and their helmets and their swords, and I yelled out, I don't want to be a soldier anymore. And so when they come to take me to the war, I wanted to say, I'm not going. But I went. They sent me to the continent. And they put me in a tank. They said, here's your tank. Roll it over people. Kill people. Well, I wanted to say I'm not going to do it. But I've done it. And I rolled over people. And I killed people. And all the while inside the tank I was crying, I don't want to kill nobody. I don't want to hurt nobody. Thank God the artillery hit me tank and set it on fire. Blew it up. And it tore me body to shreds, and I was free. I was free. And me soul rose up and up and up. And I come to a place made of white light. And waiting there to greet me was a big fat Greek with long white hair and a long white beard and a long white robe. Oh, he was huge. He gave me a hug that would have broke all me bones if I'd had any bones. Welcome home, he says to me. And I says, where am I? And he says, well, you're home. Don't you remember? Don't you recognize it? And I said, well, I'm not really sure. And he says, well, why don't you have a look around? And that's what I'd done. I went for a walk, and I come to a temple made of white light. But when I went inside, it wasn't a temple at all. It was a library. And there were these beings. They were looking at desks, and they were reading these books made out of stone. And there was a librarian being behind the counter. And I go up to it, and he hands me a book. It was so big, very thin stone. It weighed nothing. I looked at it, and it was writing on it, but I didn't know what it was. And I asked the librarian being, and he tells me it's Pali. And I say, what's Pali? And he tells me it's the sacred language of the Hindus. It's the religious form of Sanskrit. And I says, I can't read Pali. And he tells me, go, take it and sit down at one of those desks and look at it. And I've done it. And I looked at the Pali, and I could read Pali. Oh, it was very interesting. It was more than interesting. It was marvelous. It's full of secrets. Now, I can't tell you these secrets, but I sat there reading the Pali for the longest time, and then I decided to see what else was here. And I went out to the library, and I come to a temple, another temple, and I went inside, and this was the temple of music. And there was two choruses. There was a men's chorus and a woman's chorus, and there's a chorus master. And he says, join our chorus. Oh, I says, thank you, I will. I first wanted to join the women for some strange reason, but then I joined the men. And it's a funny thing. On earth, I couldn't sing at all. I was terrible. But here in the temple of music, I could sing, and the music was so beautiful. Never heard anything like it on earth. They didn't have any words. It was just music. And we sang and we sang. I can't remember ever being so happy. And I stayed there for a long time singing. And then I thought I would go back to see my Greek friend. And there he was. And he told me some interesting things about himself. He told me his name was Naxi, and that he lived in Greece 2,600 years ago. And he was quite famous and very interesting. He made the first maps of the world for the Western world. And he brought the sundial back from China. And he was the first Greek to write in prose. And he did wonderful things, very interesting man. And we talked for a while, and he told me about what it was like here. And then he showed me a little temple. But it wasn't a little temple, it was my own house. Oh, it was just right for me. And I liked it, it was very comfortable. And this became my life. Every day I'd go to the library, I would read the Pali, and I learned more and more about things that I can't tell you about. And I sang in the chorus. And then I would go back to visit my Greek friend, Naxi. I called him Naxi because Naxi is a mouthful. And one day, Naxi and I are sitting there talking about life and things. And I look up in the sky, and there I see colored lights. Colored lights. Now, where we were, it was all white. Beautiful, really beautiful. But it was all white. And I saw color, and I said, Naxi, what's that? And he says, why don't you go see? And I says, well, how do I get there? And he says, imagine you're there. And I've done it. I imagine I was there. And I was there. And it was another temple. But it was made of colored lights. All kinds of colored lights. And it looked like a tapestry. It's beautiful. And as I was standing there admiring it, a great ball of light comes out of nowhere, and it flies up, and it spins around and spins around, and then it stops. And there, standing in front of me, is this Hindu. And he says, how do you do? My name is Yuktaswar. You must be that fat Greek's twin brother. And I says, well, I don't know anything about that, but I'm pleased to meet you. Now, may I ask you about this temple? It looks like a tapestry. And he says, that's very perceptive of you. This is the temple of souls. Every thread in this tapestry is a soul. There is a thread of light here for every soul in the universe that has ever been created. When the soul is at peace, you see, it is part of the fabric of the universe, the tapestry of life. But you see, sometimes a soul has ambitions. It's discontented. You see this one here. And I looked at it, and it was pulsating. And he says to me, this Hindu, he says, this is a soul that wants independence, it wants power, it wants to experience things. And when you see a light that is like this is what you must do. And he plucked the thread of light from the tapestry, and he drew back his arm, and he flung it out into the night sky. And blimey, it became a world with people and animals and destinies. When you come back here, again, this will be your job. But for now, go back to your fat Greek twin brother. And so I imagine I was back with Naxi, and I was. And he told me, I said, Naxi, this Hindu said we're twin brothers. Well, he told me about that. I can't tell you because it's secret between us. But it was very interesting. Well, this become me life. Every day I go to the library, and I go to the Temple of Music, and I talk with Naxi. And eventually it become time for me to go back down to earth. But before I done it, Naxi showed me some of me past lives. For instance, 3,000 years ago in ancient Greece, I was a high priestess of Athena. Yes, I said priestess, yes, and I had a chorus full of women. And that's probably the reason that I wanted to join the women up here. Oh, and while I was this high priestess, I met a goddess. She wasn't a Greek goddess, she wasn't Athena. She was more beautiful, she was kinder, but she was more powerful too. And when I crossed over, this goddess came to carry me across. Well, I met her again in Spain about 400 years ago. I was looking after her shrine, and I played with her little boy. But I met him, you see. I met him when I was a Roman soldier. And I was on crowd control at an execution. And I met the man who was being executed. It was for sedition. They'd strung him up on a cross, and he looked terrible, and he needed water, I thought. And I went up to him, and I offered him some water. And he laughed. He said, I won't need water where I'm going. You drink it. And he laughed, and he laughed, and he laughed, and he laughed. I never heard such a laugh in all my lives. Oh, well, there were other things too. I was a crusader. I was a crusader once. And the man who killed me in battle, he used to be me brother in another life. And he used to be me sister in another life. And in another life, way back in Egypt, way back, he used to be me wife. And speaking of Egypt, I once built a temple in Egypt. And I once died on a pyramid in Egypt, and in another life, I died on top of another pyramid in the land of the Mayans. I was one of the first women around Francis of Assisi. It's where I learned Kara. And I was an Arab once, and I killed one of my rivals for political power, and I spent my whole life fearing that they were going to get, his friends would revenge themselves on me. And it never happened. I ruined my life. And when I was about to die, the soul of the man I killed come to tell me he forgive me. And when I was ready to cross over, the goddess come to take me away. Only she was dressed like Fatima because I was a Muslim. It's all very interesting. All very interesting it was. I looked at all these lives and I saw I'd done some good things. And I'd done some not so good things. And I'd done some terrible things. But whenever I crossed over, there was always someone with me. And I never got punished. They just showed me another way to do it. The next time when I come back. It was awfully good of Naxi to show this, and he gave me a little gift as well. Just before I left, he showed me the life I was going to have when I went back down to earth. He showed me my little baby girl, Cara. She'd be there too. She wouldn't be me daughter, but she'd be my niece, and I'd get to see her grow up. It was almost time now. Almost time to go back down, and Naxi said,
"You're not going to remember this at all when you get down. And when you come back, it may take years before you remember it again. And you may not remember it at all. But if you remember, tell people, because they worry about what will happen."
And now it really was time to say goodbye. And he gave me a hug. Would have broke all me bones if I'd had any bones. And I gave him a hug. Would have broke all his bones if he'd had any bones. And then I was gone. And I come back. Naxi was right. Took me more than 60 years before I remembered it all. And now that I remember, I'm telling people, they may think I'm crazy, but I don't care, because some people worry. They shouldn't worry. It's all going to come out just fine. We had a little song back there in the war people used to sing in England. People sang it because they were afraid they'd be separated from their loved ones for a long time, or maybe forever. It goes a little bit of it like this. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but we'll meet again someday. Well, thanks for listening. And if you see Naxi before I do, say hello. In the meantime, as we used to say in the trenches, nice to see you alive. Ta.